They should bestow a special Oscar on Culver City the way they do on neglected old movie stars. For right here was the real capital of the motion picture business. Along this stretch of Washington Boulevard, in 3 studios, far more films were produced than ever were in Hollywood. The 3 were MGM, Hal Roach, and RKO Pathé, which became Selznick International. Of the 3, only MGM remains. The old Roach studios were torn down. But right here, the old Selznick studios are being renovated and revived as Laird International Studios. All of this was wasteland in 1915 when actor-director Thomas Ince bought the property from real estate developer Harry Culver. Culver City was not much of one back then. Fewer than 500 people lived here. Within 25 years, 15,000 people would be working in the 3 studios here. Ince wrote, directed, and starred in his own movies, mostly westerns. He could turn them out in a single day. He also lured several New York stage stars here to what Billboard described as the fragrant fastness of the Southern California canyons. When Ince died, the studio was purchased by the Pathé Exchange. The early Laurel and Hardy movies were made here. Cecil B. DeMille made King of Kings here. But the studio fell deeply into debt, and in 1931 was purchased by RKO. It covered 40 acres back then, and within its 11 sound stages, production crews worked on such films as She and King Kong.
Yeah, that, they're saying come, come. Holy mackerel, what a show. Ever see anything like that before in your life?
The oldest movie studio stage in the world is here. It is now a warehouse, storing such props as these from Citizen Kane. But it wasn't until producer David O. Selznick took over the studio in the mid-30s that it reached its zenith. Some say filmmaking reached its zenith back then, too. For here, in 1937, Selznick produced Gone with the Wind. But by the 60s, the studio had begun to take on the look of Tara after the Yankees had finished with it. A few months ago, the studio, now owned by a real estate outfit called Kings Point Corporation, got a facelift. Some of the rest of Washington Boulevard could use one too. The dilapidated stores and bars along the street are like a set designer's conception of a border town slum. But Ken Scott can't remember this part of Washington Boulevard ever looking glamorous.
Now down Washington Boulevard, I always remember that along the left, between here and La Cienega. There must have been at least 25 places that sold chickens and chicken eggs and ducks and goose eggs and all that stuff. A fellow was at me this morning. He lives up the street up here. He got talking about the bookies. You know, and I got talking about it all the time and all. He said, there used to be a bookie up in my place in the back there. Well, if you want to know about bookies, every store in this block had bookies. I had one back here, too. Every store in this block had a bookie in it. Every one of them. In fact, over here in this Triangle Hotel up here, there's a fellow up there that had 8 phones up there. Down here where Buick used to live, at the bottom of the steps, chiropractor upstairs. He was no chiropractor, he was a bookie. He had 6 phones up there. Of course, they were prostitutes. You'll believe it, one time up here, there used to be a little building up here at the corner of Murphy's. They moved it over on Sunset. And believe it or not, there was 4 midget women in there, prostitutes, in that building. Well, that's something. I'd never seen that before.
In the late 30s, the old Hotel Culver City also became a house of ill repute, as they used to call such places, and it too saw its share of midgets. 80-year-old Harley Perkins, who says he has been sold with a building 5 times, remembers them well.
When the Singer and Midgets were here was during the filming of The Wizard of Oz. And the Ringing Brothers Circus sideshow characters lived here.
What was that like?
Well, the fat woman weighed over 1,000 pounds. She couldn't get in the elevator, so they made, there was a bank downstairs. It was not in operation, it was a bank, and they made 4 mattresses on the concrete floor, and she slept there.
You can look out the windows of the Hotel Culver City and see MGM down the street. But it too is not what it used to be. It earns more money from real estate and gambling hotels than it does from movie making. Most of its sprawling lot is now gridded with subdivisions. All of which brings to mind a line once uttered by David O. Selznick when he was a reigning mogul here. "Nothing in Hollywood is permanent," he said. "Once photographed, life here is ended."